What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys, to the best entertainment related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. I've had a number of people over the course of the past, couple of weeks now talking about and asking me what my thoughts are on the Shane Dawson, Jeffree Star controversy and, things surrounding everything that's kind of going on there. And I wanted to go ahead, guys, and kind of go over some of the things that, what we know about what happened with Shane Dawson and what the future may hold here. And I got to say, guys, just for full disclosure, that Shane Dawson, before all of this stuff really came out, he was one of those YouTubers I really have looked up to over the years, just making incredibly, in my opinion, some, especially his documentary series that he did with Jeffree Star, I thought was very well done, and I really enjoyed it. Getting kind of like almost like a behind the scenes of the beauty world and things of that nature, and I just thought that the way that they did it was really, really well done. But with that, guys, I wanted to kind of go through what happened to Shane Dawson. We can break it down, give our opinions, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. So let's get into it. So guys, I'm going to be taking reference from a article that was written by Lindsay Dawson of Insider, how Shane Dawson went from king of YouTube to the biggest fall from grace the platform has ever seen. So the problem with putting heroes up on a pedestal is they have a long way to fall, and someone who has fallen and crashed hard this week is Shane Dawson. Over the last few years, Dawson earned his crown as the king of YouTube with documentary series length videos that arguably changed how content was made on the platform. Equal parts untouchable and empathetic, Dawson's success has grown and grown with his mega popular conspiracy theory videos and his access to controversial stars like Jeffree Star and Jake Paul. So with that, guys, the thing about it is with Shane Dawson, he does these, these conspiracy, videos and such, but also he brings on controversial stars as it is. So obviously there's going to be controversy surrounding these stars that he's bringing on in the first place. And honestly, guys, anyone that he's brought on to his show, what's really interesting about it is like the backstory that you start learning. Whether you like Jeffree Star or you don't like him, or you don't like Jake Paul or you love Jake Paul, you start to kind of see some behind the scenes of that and kind of what it is like in a day-to-day basis with these, huge stars, guys, that are like larger than life on the YouTube platform. But while he's worked hard on this likable image, plenty of people never forget Dawson's past. Problematic behavior would sporadically reappear and threaten to take down this carefully crafted identity. So now in the eye of Carmageddon's storm, Dawson may finally have passed the point of no return. So look, guys, there's been a number of layers here to all of this, and we're not going to go through everything in specific detail, but we're going to kind of give the overall here of pretty much what happened here with Shane Dawson, and is he ever going to come back? Because at this point in time, guys, his channel is channels, I should say, are completely demonetized, which means that he can't make money off of ad revenue for the foreseeable future. I mean, it looks like it could be, for a permanent basis. A lot of times it's usually for a period of time that they're not able to make money off of their videos. This has been shown throughout the community, guys, or throughout just YouTube as a whole, like with Keemstar and other, big celebrities on YouTube. But it's hard to say whether or not he's even going to be able to re-access, getting monetized once again on any of his channels. That's yet to be seen. Dawson seemed to light the match that sparked his own canceling when he posted a lengthy statement about the YouTube beauty community less than 2 weeks ago, slamming dramatic gurus and saying James Charles needed to be served a slice of humble pie when he lost 3 million subscribers last year. It didn't really go down well. People within the community started accusing Dawson of using the beauty world as a cash grab, developing his conspiracy palette with Star making his millions and swiftly bolting and trashing it from the outside. This in turn seemed to lead to more angry commentators dredging up Dawson's passive, inappropriate, and offensive content, which, look, guys, what I will say is this. From what I've watched of Shane Dawson, I don't believe that he was using the beauty world as a cash grab. Now, look, I could be wrong, but I don't believe that. what I take a lot of, what really saddens me is the other things, guys. That's kind of going, beyond, just inappropriate and offensive content. That's just pretty much sickening, to be honest. But honestly, though, guys, when we look at just the cash grab that he's being alleged with the beauty community and the beauty world, I'm not really buying that. I think that he generally really was curious about the beauty world, wanted to understand it more, and I'm the same way. I wanted to learn more about it by watching his videos or that documentary series he did with Jeffree Star. I wanted to learn more. It was like after you watched one episode, it was like, oh yeah, I want to keep watching this and understand more and more about the beauty world, and I think they did a really good job of that. Now, over the next few days, the situation escalated to Dawson being called out by Hollywood royalty and being the subject of an explosive takedown video by Tati Westbrook, where she claimed he and Star gaslit and manipulated her into posting the video that caused Charles's demise by his sister in May 2019 as a means of publicity for their upcoming collaboration. This period of exposing Dawson and Star has been called Carmageddon, a reference to the beauty community's history of meltdowns and creators finally facing their demise, essentially. Facing their demise. Now, what I will say is this, guys. The video that was put up by Tati Westbrook, I had a hard time even watching it, just like kind of getting through it. It was such a long video. It was about 40 minutes long. And what I'll say about that, in my opinion, and I'd love to hear your guys' opinion about all this stuff, guys, but I just don't think that, Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star, they're already these huge celebrities. I just don't think that they needed to necessarily manipulate her into posting a video. I just don't know why would they do that? It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, at least. Maybe some of you have, other things that you would want to share about that, but I don't understand it. But all the drama, guys, resulted in Dawson losing over 1 million subscribers in the last 2 weeks, and his books and makeup being removed from the online stores of Morph and Target, which is, that's unbelievable, guys. YouTuber Charita Gaskin from Treda Explains It All told Insider she always knew Dawson would eventually crash and burn, but she didn't know it would happen this fast. His fall from grace was such a complete crash because he was able to get away with such despicable things for so long, she said. He made his living off of being a bigot and a terrible person. Someone like him does whatever it takes to stay on top. Just 6 months ago, the launch of Dawson and Star's Conspiracy Palette crashed the Morph and Beauty Bay platforms because so many people were trying to buy it at once. The YouTube superstars were doing meet and greets with thousands of screaming fans at Morph stores, and the whole venture was allegedly going to earn Dawson $10 million. So, look, just by watching like the documentary, that these guys really are treated like superstars. It's unbelievable. You had all these people in these Morph stores and such that were so excited to see them. That's definitely. There's no debate about that. These guys have become larger than life individuals. I had no idea, guys, before the documentary that Jeffree Star was as big as he was. I knew he had a solid following on YouTube and such. Had absolutely no idea that this guy was. Basically like a larger than life individual in the beauty world. What they're building and what Jeffree Star was building, and even like these other guys that are within the beauty world, it's something really special in my opinion, even though obviously there's tons of controversy around it, tons of people that are coming out in their obviously, taking shots at one another consistently, which is somewhat unfortunate, let's put it that way. Now, this is the thing. Dawson's problematic history has haunted him for years. This by no means is the first time Dawson's history has come back to haunt him. He's been on YouTube as a social media celebrity for over a decade and started his online career during the peak of edgy comedy. As Mike Majulek said in a recent Impulsive podcast episode, it was a time where you would try and say the most offensive thing you could think of to get a laugh. And look, that's so true. It's unbelievably true because back in the early days of YouTube, guys, people didn't really think about, 10, 20 years from now, people are going to look back on this and think that this was, really bad to say. People didn't really think of it. It's kind of like even Eminem. Back in the day, guys, when rap was kind of up and coming, Eminem, when he would use slurs and things of that nature in his songs, which now later on people look back on and are really upset at him about it because they don't like some of the things that he used to say back then. But times change, and back then it was okay, now it's not okay, even though technically speaking it was never okay. Some of the things that these larger-than-life celebrities and such are saying and such, it's just with time, some, people end up, kind of really putting a spotlight on some of the things that some of these celebrities said way back when. Now, the difference is that now Dawson is something of a mainstream celebrity, while in 2012, he and other online creators like Jenna Marbles were christened as rising stars you never heard of in Variety magazine. Gen Z and certain breeds of very online millennials have made them into household names in the years since. YouTube culture has steadily trickled through the wall between online and mainstream entertainment over the last decade, but it was Dramageddon 2 and the fallout between Westbrook and Charles that bulldozed its way through. Even those asking who are these people found themselves desperate to read about the latest installment in the saga of who was going to win the Beauty Guru War. Now look guys, I didn't really follow Dramageddon. I haven't really followed a lot of things within the beauty world simply because, it wasn't something that I was a significant, it was like a spotlight that I wanted to consistently look at. I just never really thought about it. But when you start having these other YouTubers that I have watched, that being like Shane Dawson and such, then you start really taking somewhat of an interest in it. And I think that's why Dawson, there's like this huge spotlight now on the beauty world, on just him as an individual, Jeffree Star, even Jada Pinkett Smith knows who Dawson is on Twitter, that she was done with the excuses when an old video showed Dawson pretending, which, look, what Shane Dawson did, with, of course, Jada Pinkett Smith's like a poster of her daughter Willow is inexcusable, guys. It's terrible. Badly timed letter to the beauty community and manipulative label was finally what tipped Dawson's career and reputation over the edge. Now, here's what I'm going to say, guys. Right now, it's all doom and gloom for Shane Dawson. It's all doom and gloom for even some of these other guys, like Jeffree Star, apparently, and other, people within the beauty world, and even just, creators in general, like even like Jenna Marbles and such, for some of the things that she said in the past. Here's what I'm going to say. Even though there are, I've always been a firm believer, even with, the pandemic going on in our world right here, right now, guys, I believe that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that there's always room for some of these, creators and such it may take them a long time to figure it out, to kind of maneuver however they need to kind of get back on the right track, because it's kind of like life is a road. And there are paths on all kinds of different sides along that road. And sometimes we decide to go off the road onto some of those paths. We all do it, guys. It just happens. And a lot of times those paths lead us to bad places. And so this is just a perfect example. Shane Dawson is one of those guys who's been on the road, has been very successful, but he's gone off the road at times into various paths, and some of those have led him into some trouble. And it happens to everyone, guys, whether you're big or small. With these huge creators, these huge celebrities, larger-than-life celebrities on YouTube, there's a real spotlight on them, obviously, guys, unlike other people out there in the world. Your average person, if they're doing things behind the scenes that are, looked at as super negative, a lot of times that doesn't come to light. It comes to light when it's really big, popular, stars on YouTube or other forms of entertainment. So what I'm saying is here, guys, is that, look, I believe that this will get figured out over time, and I don't know if that means that Shane will ever come back to YouTube again, or if he's going to ever be monetized again. Maybe he goes to a different platform. Who knows, guys? All we know is that I believe that there's a light at the end of the tunnel for any type of person out there. And look, it's never too late to correct a mistake, okay? We're all going to make mistakes through life. It's about how we approach those things after, right? Down the road, on the journey that we call life, trying to fix those things, which they're never going to be fully fixed. But, forgiveness is a big part of it, guys. As a community, we have to learn to forgive people, just as a culture and all of that, These are mistakes that people make, guys, and it's very unfortunate. It's sickening, honestly. It's a very sickening ordeal. But Dawson's continued partnership with Starr, who is periodically called out for his own controversies, also didn't help the case. I think Shane was always playing with fire, befriending maybe the most controversial figure on YouTube and aligning so much of his brand with him, CEO of Studio BE, Brandon Ralph, told Insider. It's ironically what probably made the duo so successful. The devil and the angel combo always works in storytelling. He said Dawson has now been exposed as not quite the angel he seemed, and I am a strong believer in forgiving people for their past, and this hasn't been Shane's first apology about any of this, he said, but I think the timing and where the world is at has really started to harm his halo. I agree with this, but I 100% agree with forgiving people for their past. You got to forgive people. Now, does that mean that we think that Shane should just come back to YouTube and he's able to, do everything that he wants to again and be monetized and such? No, there needs to be consequences for your actions, and there's no debate about that. Anyone out there, guys, that if you're honest with yourself, if you're doing something wrong, you end up getting caught, or you end up not getting caught, you have to, there's going to be consequences if you're doing something wrong at the end of the day. And I think that Shane is no different than all of us, from the standpoint of we all make mistakes. Sure, what he did, that's not what everybody does, but, we all make mistakes at the end of the day, guys. That's what I'm getting at here. Now, the halo effect is when we look at one attribute of a person and then we let it engulf them, he said. Like, that person's pretty, so they must be a good person too. Or it could be for the negative too. Like, that person did this one thing, so everything about them is bad. It's kind of this black and white thinking. If someone in our minds is all good and they end up in a scandal, it can feel uncomfortable and threatening that our reality is changed. When something happens that's even somewhat controversial, people get it in their brain. Oh, this person lied to me. They're not a good person. They're not a nice person. Shane Dawson is constantly helping people. Before he got into his whole docuseries thing, he was raising up small creators. So when we see that bad thing, it screws up what we expected of that person. And I agree. I think Shane Dawson has actually done a ton of stuff, guys, for the YouTube community as a whole. I will always give him props for being like a creative visionary when it came to how he approached his videos and such. They're so professionally well done. And I do think that he was the king of YouTube, guys, for a while. I do think that there was a time where there's been different people who have kind of taken the crown from one another, right? You got like PewDiePie, who was kind of on top for so long. He still is, technically speaking. But then you got like Casey Neistat coming up, David Dobrik. You've got like the Paul brothers, Shane Dawson. You have all these different guys who are kind of like, taking the crown from one another. But I think Shane Dawson, what he did was he kind of was almost changing the way that we were doing storytelling on YouTube. And it was just an unbelievable thing. But now, Dawson flew too close to the sun. Starr, on the other hand, may be uncancelable for this very reason. His fan base is so desensitized to his problematic behavior and supervillain persona that they accept it, even though he's been through more controversies than I've had hot dinner, said Ralph. The expectation fans have of Dawson is very difficult, so his mistakes feel more significant. Compared to Dawson's million, Starr has lost 400,000 subscribers in the last 2 weeks, a relatively small number for an exposed past littered with slurs, violence, and backstabbing behavior. When you have somebody like Jeffree Star, Trisha Paytas, or Atena Moncrief, what do you really expect from them? Do you expect them to be this kind, generous, giving person, or do you expect them to be kind of not such a good person, constantly be in controversy? You kind of look at it like, oh, well, I expect that from them, but I don't expect it from Shane. And look, really quick, about Jeffree Star, I actually think that, from an outsider looking in who didn't really watch many of his videos until after the documentary and such that came out from Shane Dawson, when I started watching the documentary, I thought that he seems like a pretty genuine guy. I don't know. He seems like another visionary, a guy who's trying to do something bigger than himself, and he's really trying to build something special. And I gotta respect that from a business perspective. Now, the way in which they go about doing things, guys, in the beauty world, look, I don't know a lot about it, as far as how the way that they go about it, and it's kind of like backstabbing and things of that nature. But I don't think Jeffree Star is going to be the only one who should be kind of put on the spotlight for that. I think that everyone in the beauty world, or a lot of people that these controversies are coming around, they all played a part in that. I don't think it's just Jeffree Star, even though maybe he paints himself as the villain. I think that all of them have something to do with it. And that's just my opinion, guys. Once again, I'd love to hear yours in the comment section below. Dawson's halo shone so brightly for so long for his 22 million fans, it was inevitable he would eventually end up falling short of their expectations and disappointing them. I agree. I 100% agree. Now, I think this might be another resetting of the Shane Dawson empire. This is interesting, but this probably isn't the end of Dawson's online career altogether. His next YouTube series, whatever format it takes, will still bring him millions of views because his diehard fans will be waiting for him. Some of Dawson's fellow YouTubers have survived worse. Many have been canceled to rise from the ashes again a few weeks, months, or even years later. Ralph thinks Dawson will take a long break from his channel, followed by a return to its roots. I 100% agree with this, guys. I think that, look, a lot of times when there is controversy or just a ton of hate towards an individual and you're given like a ton of hate, sometimes those people will just crawl in a hole and never want to go and be on the spotlight again. But then there's some that will rise from that and will be fueled by it and will want to actually be better and get better, but prove all of those haters wrong. I think Shane Dawson might be that guy. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think he might be that guy. Whether Dawson retires on his millions made from the controversy line or comes back to his channel with a heavy heart and bruised ego is uncertain right now. All we can know for sure is that he'll have to put away his YouTube crown in a closet at the back of his beauty room because the reign of old YouTube is over and he won't be needing it anytime soon. I agree, but I'll tell you guys, sometimes the comeback and the rise of someone or the return, the resurgence is bigger than the fall. And I know that right now there is just so much backlash on Shane Dawson and such, and rightfully so. I'm not going to say that any of you guys who are criticizing Shane Dawson for some of the past remarks he's had or some of the things that he's done in his old videos, I get it, right? I hope that he's learned, and I believe that he has. Absolutely. He's going to learn from this. I think that even people in the beauty world, whether Jeffree Star, James Charles, whoever, all these different huge celebrities in the beauty world, I believe that they're going to learn too over time. Look, forgiveness is a huge thing, guys, that many of us are really hard. It's hard sometimes to forgive. It's hard sometimes to kind of give people another chance, even if you've already given them a bunch of chances. Forgiveness is a powerful thing, guys. And look, I know it's tough, especially in a time like right now, during a pandemic and during uncertainty with what's going on in the world. There's a lot of things, guys, that it's scary. There's things that are scary, but at the end of the day, guys, forgiveness is a very powerful thing. Holding grudges, guys, when you let grudges just kind of, you kind of let those things happen, the grudge just kind of grows and grows, and then you start holding more grudges over time, and it almost like not consumes you, but it's just like you keep that all inside you instead of forgiving people and letting, there's always kind of a relief of forgiving someone for something. And I think here, guys, we just have to think about that somewhat. I mean, sure, there's a lot of things that are negative going on, whether we're talking on, YouTube or wherever, right? There's negative things that are just happening in life at any time throughout the course of history. And there's going to be things that we feel that people are doing wrong to us, things that we think people are doing right to us. And there's things that we think that people can do better moving forward to us, and the same thing needs to be held, as we have to be held accountable for those things as well. It's important that at the end of the day, guys, that we forgive people, okay? Don't hold grudges forever. It's at the end of the day, guys, it's not worth holding grudges for forever. I think it's really important that we forgive one another, and it's been something that we've kind of gotten away from, it feels like, in many forms of society in our country and the world at large. So look, think about it. Think about forgiveness. Think about forgiving, right? Like, let's try to get better. Let's, like, all of us, I want to get better. I know everybody else out there, there's a form of, like, us as humans, we want to get better at things. Like, right, we're striving for success. We're striving for something. One of the big things that I think that we need to really strive for, though, is trying to get better over time. And it's not going to happen overnight, guys. It happens over time. But with that, guys, let me know what you guys think about Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star, this entire thing. What do you guys think happened? Where do you think the real moment was that things really got into a bad place for Shane Dawson at this point? Do you think he will return back to YouTube? Do you think he will return or go to a different platform? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more videos like this, guys, stay here with Zero TV. At this current point in time, guys, when we talk about the Call of Duty community and just Call of Duty at large as a video game series, we look at, of course, the guys who are helming it all, that being Activision. And they are overseeing, owning a couple of developers here, that being Infinity Ward and Treyarch. They also got Sledgehammer Games as well, who are helping out with the campaign for the next Call of Duty that's coming out in 2020. That's being helmed by Treyarch. And with that, guys, I wanted to kind of propose this question. I thought that it was something really interesting that I heard on the Eavesdrop podcast by Hex, and I thought I would talk about it. And it's about Activision, and should Activision create a super studio where they take Treyarch, Sledgehammer Games, as well as Infinity Ward and put them all together, and so we either get like a Call of Duty each year based upon the super studio, or we get one maybe every couple of years so they have a little more time, even though if you merged all of them together, they probably could make something almost every single year, because these teams involved, if you have one doing the multiplayer, one doing the campaign, and one doing, co-op or like Spec Ops or Zombies or something of that nature, you can make something pretty special, most likely every single year. So the question is should Activision form a super studio? And I think it gives us, kind of the question is, should Call of Duty continue going every single year on an every year basis? So let's get into it, guys. I actually am of the thought process. In the past, I've said on the YouTube channel that I've seen where the argument and the talk has come from, where maybe Call of Duty should take a break. Maybe they should just make a game that is like going to be really polished, really well put together and crafted, and they wait a couple of years. They don't bring it out for a few years. After Modern Warfare came out, maybe they should just wait it out and kind of make a really awesome game in a couple of years. And we just keep playing Modern Warfare, even though I know a lot of people, there's, pros and cons to people. Some people love Modern Warfare, others don't. The esports side, a lot of them love it, a lot of them hate it. So there's a lot of question marks there. But I have said in the past that maybe they should take a break and they should just make one game every few years. At the same time, though, on the flip side of that, when we look at this from a business perspective, Activision is looking at this from the standpoint of, okay, we're bringing out a new game every year. It's kind of like, it's becoming like Madden, or it's becoming like, NBA 2K or one of these sports games that are coming out every single year. And Call of Duty is kind of doing the same thing, but Call of Duty is they are selling so many copies. It's the best-selling game every single year. And so why not continue doing that? And so that being said, so let's just say we're going under the assumption now, guys, that Activision is planning on continuing to bring out a new Call of Duty every single year. Should they create the super studio? Well, in my opinion, if you're planning on bringing out a game every year, I think that it could be more polished, more refined if you did have a super studio, because then you would have Treyarch, as, let's just say, they're the main dogs. They're the ones working on the multiplayer side. You got Infinity Ward working on, let's just say, the campaign, because I believe that they're the best at telling a story within the Call of Duty universe. And then you've got Sledgehammer Games that are kind of helping support those two, or they are working on like Zombies or Spec Ops or Extinction or whatever they decided to go ahead and do from that perspective, all the like the side things. And what they could also even have Sledgehammer do, or potentially Infinity Ward continue doing as well as the campaign, would be the BR. So that being like Warzone, continuing Warzone, because it sounds like Warzone's going to continue now into the next Call of Duty Black Ops title. And so here's the thing. There's been rumblings that we are going to get a Black Ops soft reboot similar to the Modern Warfare reboot, and we're going to go back and forth each year. So each year it's going to be Modern Warfare's year or Black Ops year, and you're just going to kind of keep going back and forth, and that's kind of the general consensus. I don't believe personally, guys, that even though I think it would be really good for Activision to make a super studio, I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to kind of keep things separate because it's working. Why fix what, isn't broken? So I think they're going to go back and forth between Treyarch as well as Infinity Ward, and then Sledgehammer Games is going to help one or the other do, certain aspects of the game. So like Sledgehammer, they did World War II, and I thought that they did a really good job with the campaign. So they're kind of doing the campaign now with Treyarch, and so Treyarch can really just focus on the multiplayer side of things, maybe even some of the BR things. I think that's great. And so the pros and cons versus a super studio versus not so much. At some point, is Call of Duty going to start like kind of slowing down on the numbers? Is it going to start like not being the best-selling game every year? That's the real question here. There is such a this is a brand that has just been growing at a rapid rate. Every year, as far as from a really just from a player perspective. I think they're now finally getting into a really great rhythm here where we're out of the dark ages of Call of Duty, that being like the three jetpack games. I call the jetpack era of Call of Duty. We're out of there, and we're back to what made Call of Duty great. The boots on the ground, gritty kind of, modern or slightly futuristic warfare. And I love that. And I think that we're now moving in a really great direction. I think now the rumors of Black Ops, the Black Ops reboot being a Cold War style could be something pretty special as well. And so, like I said, guys, it's going to really come down to, even though I think it would be smart to create the super studio, I don't think it's going to happen. I think that Activision is probably looking at this from the perspective of, okay, we're not going to have three studios making their own games, like Sledgehammer making one of them, as well as Infinity Ward and Treyarch. We're just going to use Infinity Ward and Treyarch, the two most well-known, they do the best at those particular games. We're just going to kind of focus on Call of Duty Modern Warfare and Black Ops, those two sub-series within the overall franchise of Call of Duty. And then Sledgehammer's going to be there to help whichever one out. And maybe they'll even form another studio that'll help out, right? That'll help out with one of these, titles and such. So what I'm getting at is, I think it would be a good idea, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think Activision probably just thinks, look, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. And so this isn't something that's broken. It's not broken. Treyarch does typically a better job of updating their game from the perspective of, for the competitive side of things. Whereas Infinity Ward, they've been way more focused on the Warzone, which I get it from a business perspective, guys. I get it. But I just believe personally, if you want the Call of Duty League to grow to new heights and you want this to be the next, kind of like traditional sport that comes out, you really have to focus a lot on that as well. I understand that, Warzone's going to be the bread and butter of what brings in revenues for Infinity Ward and Activision, but I think that they need to be focused elsewhere as well. And I think Treyarch is going to be that here coming into this upcoming year. I'm excited about it, but I want to pass the question on to you guys. Do you guys think that Activision will form a super studio between Treyarch and Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer Games, and they'll kind of keep on bringing them out every year or maybe every couple of years, that being Call of Duty? Or do you think they'll just keep doing what they're doing? They won't form the super studio. They'll just kind of keep going as they're going at this very moment in time. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And for more Call of Duty content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. I want to give you guys the top 5, at least my top 5 game developers here in 2020, guys. And so, look, this list is going to be controversial to many of you. You guys are probably going to think that this is going to be a really good talking point, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a really good way for us to kind of have a real conversation in the comment section down below, whether it's on, here on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, wherever it is, guys. I think there's real conversation here to what are the top 5 best video game developers in the world at this point here in 2020. And look, so we're going based on right here, right now, where we are, the history here with some of these studios, and, maybe projected, what's maybe coming out here in the near future that we think are going to be real big hits and such. I think that there comes down to not only success based on sales, but it also comes down to prestige of the types of games, the awards that they're getting, and things of that nature. There's a lot that goes into it for me, at least personally. And so I'm going to give you guys my top 5, at least right here, right now in 2020. I want to hear your guys' top 5 game developers, that are your favorite game developers, or who do you think are the best in the world at this point. Now, I'm going to give you the top 5. I'm not going to go in any specific order, but we'll start with number 5 for me, guys, is Ubisoft. So Ubisoft, guys, for me, I love the games that they make. I think that they have a number of great games that they've got right now. They've got a slate of games that are going to be coming out that look really great as well. That being like Rainbow Six Quarantine and Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Watch Dogs Legion, and the list goes on and on. Most recently, Hyperscape, which is their newest title, that being a battle royale, kind of taking their take on the battle royale genre. But these guys have made games, guys, that I've absolutely enjoyed thoroughly. I mean, even games like, newer titles that have come out over the years, like The Division, and, older games that go way back to the original Xbox days, at least for myself, that being like Splinter Cell. And then, of course, you got Rainbow Six Siege, which is a really great, comeback story. You look at that as a game that had a lot of backlash when it first came out, and then they just kept on refining it, updating it, and now look at where it is, one of the biggest esports titles out there. It's an incredible story, and it's a great game as well. And so the Rainbow Six series, and they have a number of games that have, they've done a really good job with. Now, sure, guys, there's gonna be things that we can nitpick about any one of these, about these game developers, these publishers, these companies as a whole. But at the end of the day, I'm looking at the games they're producing and the achievements that they're getting along the way. And I think that Ubisoft is certainly in my top 5, at least right now in 2020. That gives me to number 4, guys, which of course is Activision Blizzard. Now, you guys know me. I'm a huge Call of Duty fan. Call of Duty is one of my favorite games of all time and franchises of all time. I absolutely love Call of Duty. And I think, guys, that back a few years ago, I would have said Activision Blizzard is not in my top 5 because we went through the dark ages of Call of Duty, that being the jetpack era, 3 games in a row where we had, 3 games that I thought were just the dark ages of COD. It was just really tough for at least myself as well as a lot of other people in the community kind of get through, because if we would have seen the light at the end of the tunnel, which was technically like World War II and then Black Ops 4 and now with Modern Warfare, we would have definitely been just looking ahead to the future. And we were at that point in time, especially Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare, in my personal opinion. But with that, I think Activision Blizzard, they've done such a good job up to this point. Activision's done an incredible job of getting us, to Warzone, Call of Duty Warzone. I mean, one of the biggest, if not the biggest BR at this point in time. You've got, just Modern Warfare as a whole, the full package. You get a great campaign. I believe the best campaign of any Call of Duty ever. And that's saying something, because I go way back to COD 4. I loved COD 4's campaign. Modern Warfare 2's campaign was incredible. Even Black Ops 2, Black Ops 1. But Modern Warfare was just incredible from a graphic standpoint, keeping you on the edge of your seat consistently. Modern Warfare was the best campaign I've ever played in the Call of Duty series, and that's saying something, in my personal opinion. And then the multiplayer side of it, I love the multiplayer. I love what they're kind of doing with Call of Duty now moving forward here. Boots on the ground, gritty, kind of feel and style game, and I love that. Now, on the flip side of that, you got Blizzard, guys. Now, Blizzard, of course, they haven't brought out as much as I would have really liked, but you look at what's coming. You got Diablo coming out, the newest Diablo game. You're going to be having, obviously I've been a huge advocate of trying to get StarCraft 3 made. I've made a ton of StarCraft 3 content on the YouTube channel. You guys can check out all that stuff if you're into StarCraft, but they've consistently updated StarCraft. They're consistently creating, they're above most of these other game developers out there when we're talking from a graphics perspective and such. From Diablo coming out too, all these other games that are coming out like Overwatch 2 and just what they're doing over at Blizzard, even though people think that the old Blizzard is gone, like it's, never coming back, unfortunately. Look, at the end of the day, guys, Blizzard still has got it when it comes to, from a graphics perspective. I believe they still have it when it comes to a story perspective and then a multiplayer perspective, a full package perspective. That's what I believe. That's the Blizzard I know and love, and I hope that we, continue that. I believe that we will moving forward here with Blizzard. But the two of these companies together, in my opinion, it's growing. Regardless of whether you love these companies or you hate these companies, whether you don't like the microtransactions or you don't like the different, types of monetization tactics that they have and things of that nature, regardless how you look at it, they are very successful and they are producing really fun games. So at the end of the day, they're at number 4. Now, and number 3 for me, guys, this is a company that doesn't have a massive resume, but what they've done is quite spectacular, and where they're going, I think, might even be better. That is Projekt Red. And so, look, guys, the Witcher games are absolutely incredible. Some of the best games ever made. They've become a staple in gaming at this point in time, and I think that, look, we don't know what the future holds for The Witcher. I've talked on the YouTube channel about The Witcher 4, hoping that we're going to get a continuation of this franchise at some point or another in the future. However, it's hard to say, and I believe now with Cyberpunk 2077 coming out, guys, this looks to be their biggest and potentially best game that they've ever made. Now, we have to wait and see, because saying that right now when we haven't even played it is too much of a statement, especially coming off of The Witcher, which was, critically acclaimed in many aspects. And so, but Cyberpunk 2077 looks incredible. It absolutely looks incredible, to say the least. So I think that, guys, what we can say is that Projekt Red, not only have they made these critically acclaimed games, but they're coming out with more games in the future now that very well may, even kind of one-up what they've done in the past, whether that be Cyberpunk 2077, whether that be a continuation of the Witcher franchise coming into The Witcher 4. And so we got to kind of wait and see, but at this point in time, guys, they are top-notch, incredible company, guys, to say the least. And then, guys, for me, coming in at number 2, this might be controversial for a lot of you guys, but I just gotta say, Naughty Dog has done an incredible job of telling us, these stories that are, whether you love them or you hate them, they are some of the most intense, types of games that I've ever played. When we're talking about Uncharted, when we're talking about The Last of Us, you look at a company that not only has the prestige at this point in time, the utter prestige of their games. It's like every game that comes out is getting critically acclaimed for the most part. Now, obviously, most, recently with The Last of Us Part 2, obviously that's kind of very much so, mixed with the fan base of The Last of Us Part 2, but as far as from a critical standpoint, from critics and all of that, they're praising this game, And so what I'm getting at here is not only do you look at what is current, the present, but you also look at the past of Naughty Dog and see what they've done with the Uncharted series. Is absolutely incredible what they've done. I've hoped and I've talked on the YouTube channel for the continuation of that franchise as well. I hope that they continue Uncharted in some capacity or another, whether it's, with Nathan Drake as just a side character and you're playing a new character at that point, or, you go way back in time and you play Nathan Drake's earlier stories or something. Whatever they decide to do, I hope they continue Uncharted in some capacity or another. I believe they will. And The Last of Us, guys, look, whether with any game series, no matter how you look at it, with any series out there, any franchise, there's going to be peaks and valleys. There's going to be games that are taking you on a serious, upward trend. And then there's usually, somewhere along the road, a game that has controversy or has somewhere in there, it's not accepted or widely accepted by everyone. And so it creates somewhat of a negative game for the community, which would give you a valley. Even though with this, guys, it's hard for me to even say that The Last of Us Part 2 was a valley, because look, I'll give you guys my official review of it later on the YouTube channel, but what I will say is this. I don't believe that it was a step in the wrong direction. I think that there were aspects of it that were in the wrong direction, but when you look at everything else regarding The Last of Us Part 2, it was a huge success for Naughty Dog as well as PlayStation, so you can't really say it was a valley within the peak that was The Last of Us, Part 1. And so what I'm getting at, though, is that even if you look at The Last of Us Part 2 as a step in the wrong direction, it only takes one game to take a game into the wrong direction, but it takes one game to bring you right back to where you left off. So always keep hope, guys. And I think that The Last of Us Part 2, whether you loved it or hated it, this is just an example of a company that is willing to take some risks. And I love that about Naughty Dog. I love that they don't really hold back anything. They want to give everyone a visceral experience. And not only that, but they're also going to be adding multiplayer, that being factions to this game. Overall, guys, Naughty Dog is an incredible company. Whether, The Last of Us Part 2 changed kind of the way you look at them a little bit. I'm very excited about the future of the company and what they're planning on doing moving forward, because I think we can all agree that we would love to see the continuation of probably The Last of Us, or at least of Uncharted. So with that leads me to the last one, which is number one, guys, which is Rockstar Games. And another one that you guys are probably like, well, what, Rockstar? I mean, why would you put Rockstar Games here? Look, guys, I mean, at the end of the day, Rockstar Games is one of the most, number one is that they are a company that I believe Naughty Dog is starting to kind of almost become like a Rockstar in certain capacities. Rockstar is a company that isn't afraid to, really give you this kind of, whether it's a controversial experience or segments of their games are controversial. I mean, this is going back all the way to Manhunt, guys. But at the end of the day, Rockstar does an incredible job. They take their time with their games, number one. But number two is that the experience that they create is something unlike anything that we've really seen. I mean, you look at Red Dead Redemption 2 and what could be coming now with GTA 6, and then Max Payne 4 if that comes out next, and LA Noire 2. Every experience that they have, guys, is something special, and it's different. They're all vastly different from one another, and it's a beautiful thing. And so what I'm getting at is that Rockstar, not only from a prestige perspective, similar to that of Naughty Dog, because each of their games pretty much gets critically acclaimed at the end of the day, but they also have different forms of controversy. They also have some of the best graphics that we've seen, most detailed graphics that we've ever seen, like in Red Dead Redemption 2. Unbelievable what they did for a, open world setting. So, look, Rockstar is, I'm not saying, and like I said, this isn't in any particular order, but Rockstar has done an incredible job with their IPs that they have, and I think they're going to continue that moving forward with Grand Theft Auto, with Rockstar, and look, or with Red Dead, with Max Payne, LA Noire, Bully potentially, maybe even Manhunt, who knows. All I'm saying is, guys, is that the IPs that they've put together, created, are some of the best experiences that we've ever had on, PC, on console, and just in gaming in general. And so we have them to thank for that, even though there may be a lot of controversies along the way, and there might be some of those games that you don't like as much as, the previous game. And think of it like this. GTA 6, we might not like that game as much as GTA 5, because everyone loves GTA 5 so much. But we might love it even more. Who knows? That's the beauty of video games, guys. And the great thing about it is if Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out and we don't like it as much, you can always go back to GTA 5. The same thing with Naughty Dog with The Last of Us Part 1 versus Part 2. You can always go back to the first one. Same thing with, CD Projekt Red. If you don't like Cyberpunk 2077, you can go back to The Witcher. If you don't like, Call of Duty Black Ops, the upcoming one, you can always go back to one of the other CODs. It's for any one of these titles and these companies, guys. They've built a portfolio of games that are, some of the most revered and some of the greatest experiences that we've ever had in gaming. And this is just my opinion, guys, and I would love to hear yours in the comment section down below. What are your top 5 favorite video game developers, publishers at this point in time in 2020? Let me know what you guys think. And for more videos like this, guys, stay here with Zero TV. You guys know I love the movie industry, filmmaking in general, and I wanted to kind of start a series, guys, based around some of the movies that I've been watching, some of the movies I'm considering on buying, and I thought in this segment of the show, I wanted to give you guys the 3 movies I'm watching, July 2020 edition, and each month we're going to kind of go through the movies that I'm watching and some of the movies that I'm buying, and I would love to hear your guys' some of the movies that you guys are watching, whether it's movies or TV shows or whatever it might be, guys. I'd love to hear in the comment section down below what you guys are watching. So let's get into it. Normally, guys, with this series, I want to be able to actually give you guys 3 movies that I've been watching or I've watched in the movie theaters or I'm planning on watching in the theaters. But since the theaters aren't 100% opened up as of yet, maybe we'll have to wait a little bit longer to do that. But I'll give you guys the 3 movies here that, since the theaters aren't open, obviously, what I've been watching right now. So coming in at number 1, guys, is A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, which is, of course, the Fred Rogers story played by none other than Tom Hanks. And I absolutely gotta say, guys, that this is a movie, a very heartwarming movie, about not even so much about, even though it's about Fred Rogers, it's more about actually this guy who kind of writes an article about Fred Rogers and Fred Rogers getting to know him as a person and such. And it's a real like story about forgiveness and such. I know earlier on in the show we talked about forgiveness and how it's like a really important thing, and it's a special thing that we have as humans, the capability of giving to other people that have wronged us and such. But in this story, it's so much about forgiveness. It's unbelievable. Like it's all about that. I'm not going to spoil anything or anything because I think you guys should absolutely see this if you have not watched it already. And it really brought back some memories, guys, because as a kid, I watched, the show Fred Rogers. His show was in Pittsburgh. I live not too far from Pittsburgh, and just a really great, I got to say, it's a great, overall a great story that you guys should absolutely watch. It's a heartwarming story, and I would absolutely check it out if you haven't seen it. And then at number 2, guys, is Midway. This is a war film. And I gotta say, other than it being, there's a lot of war movies out there, right? We get lots of war movies. I've seen, obviously like Dunkirk, more recently than not, you've had like Dunkirk and movies like that. But even, going all the way back to like Saving Private Ryan and such, there's so many different takes on World War II. And what I got to say about this one in particular was I loved the acting. I thought that some of the thing I loved about it was actually the idea of the pilots and such. Some of the shots that were taken from the sky, from the air, guys, were really well done and well crafted and shot. And it was, I gotta say, it was a pretty intense movie. I believe it was only rated PG-13 as well, which was interesting. I've always kind of said when it comes to war movies, you always kind of figure they're going to be rated R because they're pretty, usually relatively graphic. And this one, it wasn't terribly graphic. I mean, it was, I thought that overall it was a pretty, a really solid movie. They did a lot within it, actually, and I thought it was actually really well done. This movie, though, guys, got overshadowed, at least for me, by 1917, because that was a movie that was coming out kind of around somewhat of the same time, if I remember correctly, and I felt like the marketing and such really overshadowed Midway. And so Midway, guys, overall, I would highly recommend it. I actually thought it was a really great, it was a really fun movie. I probably won't watch it again necessarily, but I thought watching it at least one time is definitely worth it. So that's what I would do, guys. And then coming in at number 3, guys, for me was Terminator Dark Fate. And this was, of course, the newest Terminator movie. And look, they're all basically the same. It's kind of like the same type of movie, action movie. A lot of great action, though, in Terminator Dark Fate. And I gotta say, guys, lots of people have given a lot of backlash to the Terminator movies, but in my personal opinion, I actually like some of these more recent ones than not so much. I didn't really like the Terminator Rise of the Machines much. I actually like Terminator Salvation a lot. I really enjoyed that one. I believe it was Terminator Genesis. I enjoyed that one as well. Terminator Dark Fate, it was just another one. It's a fun, like, blockbuster movie. You can just sit down, eat some popcorn, and just enjoy. And that's what I really did. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty fun movie. Definitely something, once again, that I probably wouldn't necessarily watch it again, but I'm glad I watched it one time. It was exciting. It was exciting seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger as his, obviously as one of the machines. And I really liked watching Arnold's, his evolution in this one. And you'll have to kind of wait and see as you watch this movie, but it's actually got some heart to it. And I really liked that about Terminator Dark Fate. And so with that though, guys, I enjoyed it. I would give you guys my stamp of approval as far as just watching it. Don't go into it expecting to see like the greatest, acting of all time or something from Arnold or any of these other guys. But it's a fun movie. It really is. It's a fun movie. And with that, guys, those are my 3 movies I'm watching here in July of 2020, or I've already watched. I would love to hear from you guys. What are you guys watching? What are you planning on watching? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more 3 movies I'm watching content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.